This changes everything for the Anaheim Ducks. This upcoming season is going to be a pivotal one for the franchise. We get into exactly why in this edition of Ducks Digest. Hey, this is Mike Nelson. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. I want to thank the 19% of you, the ones who are watching these videos who have already hit the sub button. But 81% of you have not subscribed yet. Make sure to subscribe. We're the newest Anaheim Ducks YouTube channel, bringing you everyday Ducks content. So help out a fellow Ducks fan and hit that subscribe button. So, as you know, the Ducks in the upcoming season, the big question mark is going to be if this team is going to make the playoffs, right? That is the main question mark. They posted an article on the hockeynews.com just a few days ago. When will the Anaheim Ducks make the playoffs? As we know, some experts out there have the Ducks just missing the playoffs next year, right? I believe there's a few that think maybe the Ducks can compete for a playoff spot, but the vast majority do think the Ducks will come up just short of making the playoffs next season. Of course, as a fan base and as an organization, that's not acceptable, right? I mean, the thing is, I think the Ducks, you have to obligate them, you have to pressure them to make the playoffs next season. I mean, the Ducks can't go into next year kind of thinking, well, we're going to have a good season, but we're going to come up short. I mean, I think that wouldn't be the best way to go as an organization. I think they have to go with the mentality that next year is the year that they finally break the drought, right? 2018, going to be 8 years next year. Kind of crazy since the last time the Ducks played in a playoff game. The last time they played in a Stanley Cup playoff game. The last time they won a playoff game was even longer than that, 2017, right? So it's going to be 9 years next year, the last time the Ducks won a Stanley Cup playoff game, because 2018 got swept. So that is alone a unacceptable stat for any organization. I don't care if it's original six, if it's a newer team like the Ducks, that is unacceptable. It's completely unacceptable the last few years for the Ducks as an organization, and things have to change for the better next year. They have to. I think everybody is in agreement with that. And Pat Verbeek, has to be the guy that's, we have to blame Pat Verbeek if things don't go well next season. I think he will be the guy to blame, especially the way the whole Mason McTavish thing is being handled. That is all on Verbeek and the front office. This has been the most transformative offseason in recent memory for the Anaheim Ducks, with general managers Pat Verbeek's contract nearing an end. That's right, nearing an end. And, basically signifying if Verbeek doesn't get the job done soon, he will be out of Anaheim. I think that is more than obvious. Ducks ownership has not given Verbeek any sort of contract extension. So as we know, Verbeek, I think, is the odd man out if things don't pan out next year. Ownership has given him a green light to do whatever it takes to end their organization's 7-year playoff drought. The third longest in the NHL. Major surgery has been done to the entire makeup of his team personnel. Brand new coaching staff, a lot of new players. And it's all just to try to make the playoffs next year. I mean, I think that's the goal of the Ducks. Verbeek said, I think I see this team at a point to where my expectation of this team is to make the playoffs next year. He said that on April 19th, right after firing Greg Cronin as a head coach, basically saying, I don't think Greg was going to take us to the playoffs, so I fired him, right? Because he said this before they hired Joel Quenneville, right? He said this before they hired Joel. I mean, unless the Ducks already had some sort of verbal agreement with Joel, they fired Greg pretty early on in the offseason, way back in April. He said, I expect our team to take a step, forward, and so I'm going to take an active and aggressive in making our team better. Of course, the Ducks, let Gibson go, Lundestrom, Zegras, those are the big players they let go, and brought in Chris Kreider, Ryan Poehling, Mikael Granlund, and Peter Mrazek. Those are the big acquisitions so far for the Ducks in this offseason. But I think, at the same time, I think the Ducks offseason really hinges on Mason McTavish, right? I mean, sure, they got Chris Kreider, sure, they got Mikael Granlund, but let's not be naive here. I think the whole Ducks offseason is going to hinge on what the Ducks end up doing with Mason McTavish, right? I mean, the Ducks have a situation right now where, unfortunately, this guy could be going into a contract holdout. hold out basically, not under contract, but I mean, he could basically be holding out as a restricted free agent coming up to moving into next year. This could drag on a training camp if the Ducks don't find a way to make a contract, to get an agreement between these the two parties. It seems like the Ducks and McTavish are still not close to an agreement. There hasn't been a lot of information on him recently when it comes to the Ducks and McTavish. I think that's what everybody out there really wants to know, right? What exactly is going on with McTavish? Of course, the brand new coaching staff is going to be super important. Jay Woodcroft and Ryan McGill, of course, being joined with Joel Quenneville. That's going to be a big change for the Ducks, accompanied by Tim Army and Andrew Brewer. The Ducks, of course, trying to get a better special teams, right? I think that's the main key. This is what co-owner Henry Samueli said about the Ducks, bringing in Quenneville. He said it's been a long, painful process, but we reached a point where the rebuild is coming to an end. It really is in time to take a step to become a perennial playoff contender and eventually a Stanley Cup contender. But at the same time, I think the Ducks ownership has to continue to spend money on this team, and they can't be cheap, right? They cannot be cheap like they're doing right now with McTavish. I think they cannot be cheap, and they have to sign players and give them the money that they deserve, right? I think that is the main key. But I wanted to say, the power play and the penalty kill have to get better, right? With Cronin, the Ducks 25th and 32nd in the power play, unacceptable. 31st and 29th in the penalty kill, and 28th and 30th in terms of 5-on-5 expected goals for percentage. So those numbers are absolutely awful, terrible numbers of Greg Cronin, and those have to get better with Quenneville and Woodcroft and McGill. They have to get better. These three guys have a lot of experience. Quenneville, second winningest coach in the NHL. That has to get better. It just has to. It cannot be as bad as it was with Greg Cronin. And you hope that the Ducks, can find a system that works with the players that they have, because I think last year was really rough to watch at times. Hopefully next year is better. Goaltending, as we know, with Gibson gone, this is now Lucas Dolstall's team. He's got to be the guy. I've said this before. He is the starting goaltender for the Ducks. I don't think Mrazek will, he's going to play in games as well, but I don't think it will be a 1A, 1B. I think Dolstall should start the majority of the games. If he is healthy and playing well, I think he will start the majority of the games next season. Aging veterans, the Ducks do have a few old guys that, are big question marks. Alex Killorn, Frank Vatrano, Strome, Kreider, Mikkel Granlund, Jacob True, and Radko Gudas. All these guys are aging veterans, and in a few years, these guys will be out of the NHL. You just hope that these guys can have good seasons next year, right? That's the only thing you can hope for, because these guys obviously are not part of the Ducks' future. They're part of the Ducks right now. In a few years, they'll be, like I said, out of the league. So you got to hope that they stay healthy and they have good seasons next year to try to get the Ducks in the conversation for the playoffs. As always, make sure to subscribe, and let's go Ducks. Woo!